So we are going to begin it.
Okay.
Respected participants, welcome to JIMA webinar. We are privileged to have among us Mr. Amit Sachdev as a speaker from the industry. Mr. Amit Sachdev is a graduate in agriculture and animal husbandry from GB Pant University with advanced training in dairy and poultry farming in Europe. Since 1990, he has worked as an independent consultant in livestock production, processing, and marketing, contributing to the growth of processed chicken, value-added poultry, and machine milking system in India. He introduced US bovine semen in India in 1996 and advises worldwide sires. For nearly 3 decades, he has represented the US Green and BioProducts Council in India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Sri Lanka, guiding companies on poultry, dairy, biotechnology, ethanol, and imports of US corn, DDGS, ethanol, barley, and sorghum. He has completed HACCP training in the US, conducted India's pork market assessment for the US Meat Export Federation, and contributed to USTDA program on food safety. He also served as agricultural trade analyst on multiple national panels. I invite our knowledge partner to start knowledge share. Over to you, Mr. Sajdev.
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you very much. Thank you to JIMA for inviting me for this seminar. Namaskar, everyone. I think I know quite a bit of some of the people who are part of the JIMA team. I met them at the JIMA conference also. So let me start with the discussions today. I'll put off my video so that it's much more easier. So we are going to talk about the corn outlook for India and in the global scenario. Topics I would like to discuss today, ethanol sector, kind of comparison between US and India, India's corn demand and supply, and global and US corn supplies. I think these are very important topics for the ethanol sector per se in India. And as we start growing in the ethanol sector and our demand for corn goes up. So just to look at the US ethanol sector, what you see here is the total production capacity of US ethanol, which is equivalent to about 69.84 billion liters per year. If we just do a small maths, there are 191 plants in US producing 69.84 billion liters. And all these plants are situated in this area, which is PAD 2. And you see it here. These are all the plants, and these are also the corn producing states. So the concentration of the plants is where corn is, right? And average plant capacity is about 1 million liters per day, which requires about 2,283 metric tons of corn on a daily basis. The current US production is about 16, that's the capacity, and the current production is about 178 million per day right now. And the blend rate is 10.4%. But what is also interesting is that as ethanol is blended in gasoline, the price of gasoline for every blend goes down, which is advantage to the consumer. So if you see the numbers here, if ethanol without any gasoline without ethanol is selling at about 89 cents, E10 sells about 13% below E0. And E15 sells about 19% below zero. E85, the differential between E0 and E85 is about 30%, which is advantage to the consumer. And many consumers would generally buy E15 or even E30. Now, what does 1 metric ton of corn, what is the value it gives us in the US? So in US, 1 metric ton of corn, maize, gives you 439 liters of ethanol. Now in India, I believe, I think a lot of people are doing corn right now in India, it is about 380 or 390 liters of ethanol. It also provides 303.5 kgs of DDGS at a 10% moisture. This is important because most of the DDGS that is traded in the US is at 10%. The new technology in the US is to remove corn oil. So for every 1 ton of corn processed, it gives 14.28 kgs of corn oil and 321 kgs of biogenic carbon dioxide, which is captured. And companies are selling that to companies like Coke, Pepsi, and also meat processing plants. Now, just to look at what is the value addition that a US company gets. The corn value, I've tried to put it in metric tons, in dollars per metric ton, and convert it into INR per metric ton based on a 90 rupee value of today's on today's time as dollar value. So when you look at the number here, the value addition on the base value is about 50%. The reason is DDGS valuation is very high. At the same time, DDGS corn oil is something that is giving additional benefit. So if the value of corn for a US distiller is about 15 rupees per kg or 15,000 rupees a ton, the total valuation that they get is about 22 rupees or 22,000 rupees. And we need to make sure that how can we get this amount of valuation from the process that we are doing in India. Now, this is the current India's ethanol sector. I'm sorry, I think the slide is not showing properly. But we are at 5% of the world market today. And this is your total feedstock. The sector for maize is only about 47% of the total receipt that was done last year. I think there is opportunity to increase the productivity, increase the total supplies from the grain side for the Indian ethanol sector. Now let's look at the current demand. I think one of the biggest challenge that everyone is facing is the corn demand is higher than the supply. Today, this year is totally different, but feed is something that is getting most of the corn. Of the total production, at least 50% of the corn goes to the feed industry. So let's look at the feed industry first. There are 3 segments: poultry feed industry, cattle feed, and the aqua feed. Together, this total feed demand is growing at about 7%. But then there is an unorganized market for cattle feed ingredient, which is also growing at about 4%. So poultry feed growing at about 6%, cattle feed at 10%, and aqua feed also at about 10.73%. And in all these 3 segments, corn or maize in it is an important ingredient for energy. When we look at only corn, broiler sector and layer sector in 24-25 used about 19.78 million tons of corn. And in 25-26, the projection is for 21.16. Starch sector about more than about 6 million tons. Cattle sector about 5.5, 6 million tons again. Human side, we are not consuming that much amount of corn for food. And alcohol for beverage as well, beverage alcohol, the use is about 0.8 million tons. I think what is catching up really fast is fuel grade ethanol. So what you see here is a 8 million ton use in 24-25, and a 9 million ton projection in 25-26. The reason why we have reduced this number is because you got 5.2 million tons of rice released for ethanol use. And at the same time, this year also, 5.2 million tons is allocated. Next year, which is 26-27, this number, based on the projection, could be 16.73 million tons. I think that's a huge jump. So when we look at CAGR, the poultry feed demand or the corn demand is growing at about 20%. Cattle at 18%, starch at about 25%. Human food is not growing at all. 27%. The biggest one is fuel ethanol, 748%. But we also have to look at what is our production growth. Our production growth is about 23%, whereas demand growth is 32%. So that's the reason why last year you saw prices going up very high. But this year, complete change at the start of the season. Now, what I'm going to share right now is a corn supply scenario. This is an initiative that was taken up by the poultry sector. They have crowdfunded, all these associations' names that you see on the screen have crowdfunded an initiative for maize survey, where they had hired a company who would do satellite mapping of the corn areas in the country. And I'm showing this to you so that you understand that poultry industry is the largest user of corn. And the reason why they are doing it, because the general belief is that meat and egg consumption in India is increasing, and their demand is going to increase very fast. As I said, in the last slide you saw it, 20%. And they don't want that the price of meat and eggs should be increasing, because that will cause a lot of inflation. And you also see that the areas, these are the areas where meat consumption is higher. And these are the areas where production is also there. Same. These are the areas where egg consumption is higher. These are also the areas where egg export is happening. So we surely want our exports for meat and eggs to continue and the price to remain stable and reasonable for the Indian population as well as for the export purposes as well. Now, these are the first estimates for India's corn supply for 24-25 in comparison to the current. So I have put in both the numbers here. These are the Kharif numbers from government side, area 9.71 million hectares, and as for the private sector, it is 9.79 million hectares. Very comparable. But understand, these are first estimates. The harvest in some areas still continues. And the estimate of production from the government side is about 28.3 million tons in Kharif alone. Last year, this number was 24. So we have added about 12% more. Area has increased by about 6.1%. Production has increased by 12.31% from last year as per Government of India and private sector reports. When we look at the top 5 production states, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Tamil Nadu. These sectors today produce 75% of the Kharif crop. If our total projection, if Government of India's numbers are believed, that's 42 million tons. That means at least 50% of the total production in the year would come from these 5 states. That's a big, big number. So the survey was done in these states. 13 states were decided, and the survey was done in these 5 states. These are these 13 states. Mapping was done through satellite mapping, and everything was done. And people were there who did the harvest check as well. So the reports that you see, the data that you see has been checked, verified by people on the ground as well. It's not only satellite mapping, it is people on the ground as well that went around and did the harvest test at different locations. As I said, the average acreage has expanded by about 16%. Yield, I would say, still remains about the same. Not much change in the yield, but overall area has increased, and that has led to production, which is higher by about 12%. Now, as per Niti Aayog's report, our total demand is going to be about 78 or 79 million by 2030.
आवाज कम कर देना, मीटिंग चल रही.
How are we going to achieve that 78, 79 million? I think that is something that every one of us has to work together with the scientists, with the seed industry, and amongst ourselves to make sure that farmers in India continue to grow corn. 2 things are important. For the current production, what is the area that is required? If our total demand is 51.2 million tons, as we have projected, area would be about 15.4 million hectares. That's a large amount of area. We have just about 9 million hectares right now. That means we must add more acres to get to that 51 million tons. And for that, the CAGR over the next couple of years to come to that 79, 78 million tons, the CAGR needs to be 29%. Sorry, 79% of demand growth. And the area must grow by 22%. Now, I'm not sure if that seed area would grow moving forward. That means that productivity must increase. New technology, new hybrids must be introduced in the country so that the farmers continue to grow. I think what is also important for you all is that we have a huge inconsistency in corn quality. What the photographs that you see today here are for the 2023 and 2024 crop. Now you can look at it, and you would also realize that when you are processing corn, you always find some trucks that would have very low quality and some trucks which will be very good quality. You will be able to get good ethanol production and good DDGS also, but not every truck is the same. Not every consignment is the same. And the same problem is with Kharif 2023. Quality remains inconsistent. And we have seen that in Kharif, seen that in some parts of UP, we have seen that in parts of Telangana, Maharashtra. Different farmers, different hybrids are utilized, different agriculture practices are used. So we are not getting a consistent quality across the country. I think that is very, very important for us to understand. The other issue is the toxins. Now, toxins are there from the plant level itself. That means they come from the field level itself. But we can stop it if we have better quality harvest systems, if we can store the corn in proper way, by aeration and in silos, so that we can continue with our projects that we want. The toxins, these tests were done in January 24 to December 24 on DDGS and corn. Most of the samples that we saw here are contaminated. You see here, aflatoxin, 51% are contaminated with aflatoxin. That's a big number. Overall, all the consignments that were checked had aflatoxin, and that showed in DDGS. 99% of DDGS samples had aflatoxin. Now, the maize prices are something that everybody, I think, is very interested in. Obviously, the cost has to go down, but today's price is lower. Average market price is lower than the minimum support price. And that is the reason why states are asking distillers, poultry industry, and others to buy at a minimum support price. The prices have dropped because we have produced a huge quantity of corn, and we will not be able to utilize this corn until the time the new crop comes, which is in March and April, which is the Rabi corn. So right now, the average market yard price is about 20,660 rupees, which means the delivered value is somewhere close to 22 or 22,500 at the most, at most locations. If you are closer to a market yard, then obviously it could be as low as 21,500 as well. And this price average is for the last 1 month only. Now let's look at the US and the global corn supplies. This is the US production, planted acres, planted hectares. Over the years, the number of the total acres or hectares remains the same, 39.3, 39.94 million hectares. But when you look at the production from the same amount of land, from 273.2 million metric tons, this year the production is 425 million metric tons, which is a huge number. And the domestic consumption has also gone up from 263 million metric tons to 332 million tons. Ending stocks are much higher, from 20.9 to 54.7. So there's plenty of corn in the US at this time. As I said, US has been producing more corn using less of land. Productivity has increased dramatically. Today's number is 11.1, 11 to 11.4 metric tons per hectare. Let's look at the world corn production. World corn production has also increased. This year, the number would be, production would be 1,286 million metric tons, 1.2 billion metric tons. And we here talk about global ending stocks, but what we need to look at is what is ending stocks less China. Other countries around the world can export, but China is only an importer. Its stock, which is right now 173 million tons, 173.91 million tons, does not export into the world market. it only buys. So if by any chance India needs to import corn and we need non-GM corn, the world may not have large quantities of non-GM corn. Also, there's only Ukraine that may supply us, or Russia, to add on with any non-GM corn if we need it moving forward. This is just a depiction, corn production in countries. And when you look at US is growing very fast. The linear, you can see it, that the production has been increasing every year. The current maize prices, US today is the cheapest. And when we look at the current pricing, US corn price is $208. So $208 in US at 90 rupees would mean 18 rupees 72 paisa is the price of corn in the US. This is FOB. That means an ethanol plant in the US would get corn at a much, much cheaper price, maybe less by about 2 rupees further. So 16 rupees would be a basic value of corn. And Indian corn is somewhere here. So today, Indian corn delivered to a mill is about $244 or $250. 244 would mean at 90 rupees is about 21,960 or about 22 rupees. That's what we calculated. All other countries have higher pricing. US is the cheapest and remains the cheapest. Now, this is a report that was done by US, an ERS report, which shows that the demand of corn in India is going to increase very fast. Only reason is consumption is going to increase because of the rapid growth in income. And as that income increases, the demand for meat, milk, eggs is going to be very high. So you see scenarios, projections for corn demand by 2047, Viksit Bharat is going to be 200 million. And soybean meal, which is another product that is needed by the poultry industry, is going to be 68 million. Well, I'm not going to talk about imports, if they happen or not, but how are we going to fulfill this demand here? I think that is very important for us to understand. Thank you very much. I'll stop my sharing, and if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer those questions.
The session is now open for questions. Please feel free to share yours.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, now we are from Karnataka. Yeah, now here the MSPs, they are compulsory applying to the industry. They are forcing to purchase at the MSP price. So the crop is more, but government policies are making us to give MSP price.
That's a government policy.
Sir?
That's a government policy then.
Yeah, that is only our priority is this one, sir.
Yeah, so there is no. If I have to compare this with US, there's no government policy, there's no minimum support price. The prices that I showed you are open market price. and it's a contract on Chicago Board of Trade. It's an open price that happens, that is open every day. And you can actually buy corn today for next year also, 2026, or even beyond that. You can book that corn. There's no government pricing. The reason why we have such pricing is to work with the farmers. I think the whole project of ethanol blending program was started to double farmers' income. And I think all of you, poultry industry, the dairy industry, the ethanol sector, came together and the prices increased and you continue to buy. But even at MSP, it should be a viable option because you guys have also bought corn, which was higher at 25 or 26 also the last year. But this is a government policy.
But this year, sir, allocation is also not there, and MSP forcing is there. So it has become very difficult, sir.
I can understand, sir.
Yeah.
I can very well understand.
This ethanol industry has become just like sugar industry, sir. It's controlled by the government.
Because the buyer is the government.
Yeah.
Your buyer is the government. There's no private buyer. Huh?
But in US also, the system is like that, or it's different, sir? OMC.
In the US?
In US, this buyer is government itself or private players?
It's all private.
Private players.
The gasoline sales the refiners are all private.
Okay.
The producers are all private.
Yes.
And gasoline, the price of ethanol is also in the open market. There's no controlled price for anything. Input, output, both are open markets.
Okay. Fine, sir. Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, Amit ji. Anish this side. Sir, two question I think. Is there a linkage of corn price to ethanol in US? And what is the average price of ethanol in US?
So there is no linkage because it's an open price. There's no linkage. It's an open pricing. There could be a profit, it could be a loss. So if I go by the pricing today, so December contract in the US is $1.67 per gallon, which is 1.67, 44 cents per liter. At 90 rupees, it's 39 rupees a liter. That's the contract price for December as it closed yesterday.
Okay. So CBOT price is the price on which it is being sold in the US market, or it is for exported?
All values come from CBOT, from Chicago Board of Trade or Platts.
Right.
And it's open for anyone to see.
Yes, of course.
So I showed you a
What
chart.
are the yes.
I showed you a chart. Shows what is the value proposition, value addition that happens. So even if ethanol production does not give them enough money, DDGS and distillers oil and carbon dioxide gives them the money. That's where the value comes from. So just to also tell you, January prices are lower than December. So Jan price on CBOT is $1.58 per gallon, which is 41 cents, 37.61 rupees per liter.
Yes.
Now you can say that there is a connection here between corn because corn prices are lower. In India, corn prices are higher. But we have not done any analysis on those prices. What is the linkage between the two?
So it's all purely demand and supply.
It's purely
Whether
demand and
it is
supply.
corn, whether it is corn, whether it is ethanol.
Absolutely. Because US has large quantity of corn, the prices are stable. So just to also go back and look at what is the total consumption of corn for ethanol, it's close to 140 million tons. We are looking at 9 to 10 million tons of corn consumption. So on a percentage basis of the total production, we are looking at 25%.
Yes.
US is at 33% of the total production.
If both are high, consumption as well as production.
Absolutely.
Is it only corn which is being used for ethanol, or you have anything else in US?
There is small quantity of sorghum, very small quantity of sorghum that gets used for ethanol production, but that's minuscule. Only some parts of Texas, some areas. But I think 90%, more than 95%, 96% is corn oil. The plants are big. Average, as I showed you, 2,200 tons per day.
Correct.
Is the basic crush. Average crush. Plants could be bigger.
And it's a direct supply from farmland to ethanol plant. There is no in-between markets.
No, there are. There are cooperatives, there are traders, but most of the time, the farmers would supply directly because farmers store corn at their own farms as well. So farmers who are producing corn would store corn in bulk silos in their own farms, and when the time comes, they'll supply directly. Or the ethanol plant has an option to go to a cooperative elevator or a trader to buy corn. But all prices are based on Chicago of trade at Chicago minus what is the local pricing. What is the cash rate?
Hello. Rajesh Nair this side from Godavari Bioproducts.
Yes, sir.
I have a query regarding the recent 45Z policy by US and how it affects the ethanol price and the futures premium in CBOT. How is it expected to play out?
It is not implemented as yet, but it
Yeah.
will get implemented soon. We don't see any price going up as yet. The policy has been announced for sure.
We keep hearing that it has affected the futures premium since Jan. The prices would be impacted.
Not so much. I think the prices have been stable. The prices were actually higher until last 2 weeks back.
Yeah.
The price of ethanol has come down drastically in last one month.
In the previous week, right? Yeah. In the past few. Yeah.
So again, it's a market play right now. And as winter sets in, actually the demand for gasoline is going to go down.
Right.
So
and since the corn has the highest production and the highest yield, which we see, that would also be bearish, right? So the overall, yeah.
absolutely.
So you see both ethanol and corn being bearish in the coming months?
stable. Yeah, I think it should go down. And as I said, the world has huge quantity of corn,
Yeah,
and the corn prices are not going higher unless and until something drastic happens.
understood. So 45Z policy will not have a major impact, is what we understand.
Domestic industry. It's for the domestic industry. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, still there's no clarity, right?
No, there's no clarity.
Because they have said that they have to, both the farmer and the manufacturer has to meet some conditions to get the credit.
Correct.
So that's not clear yet.
It's not clear. See, it has to be defined in the policy. It is not
Yeah.
as yet.
Understood. Thank you so much.
Right.
Any other questions from the participant side?
Hello, sir. This is Abhishek from Warangal. I was just hearing you, sir. With whatever you have said, I realized that in the future, if we have to meet the requirement, it is only that we have to start producing the non-GMO, use the non-GMO seeds. Then only we can go to that level of productivity which you are speaking about. So, will we be allowed in future to produce non-GMO, or how?
It is all,
And can
Abhishek
can
ji,
we?
it's all GM right now.
Sorry, sir.
It's all non-GM today. We are not allowed GM.
Yeah, sorry.
Theoretically,
GM. Yeah. So will India be allowed to produce the GMO crop, or to import it in future to reach that high level of consumption?
policy. It's a policy decision by GIAC, Ministry of Agriculture, and everyone else. And we have no say in that policy. But I must also say that bringing GM seeds does not mean that the productivity will jump to what is, because GM seed is just one tool. There are other tools also that are required, like agronomic practices, which are very important. And the farmers will have to adopt those agriculture practices also. Now, it's not that I'm saying that farmers would not adopt. India adopted GM cotton, and we became a net exporter from a net importer of cotton, which is fantastic. But the decision lies with the government. It will also do one more thing. It will reduce the aflatoxin levels, damage in the corn that we are consuming today at our plants. Because the technology of insect resistance is built in the seed itself. So if the seed is not damaged, or the kernel is not damaged by the insect, then the inside, the starch is not exposed. No fungus, no aflatoxin.
Sir, if things are so good with GMO crops, then why are we not allowing it policy-wise?
Policy decision. Trials are on as we speak. Trials are on. Government of India has allowed the trials.
Okay.
But will it
Then
approve?
there's one. Sorry.
Will it approve for planting, sowing in country? Yet to be seen. It's a policy decision.
So there's one more thing I wanted to ask, sir. Like MSP by policy to double farmer income, it is more of creating chaos and increasing it year by year. Like increasing MSP year by year is only adding to more trouble to the trade. Then I don't understand why the farmer in other countries are okay with use by selling the crop at USD 208, and why when we are selling it at the higher price, still our farmers are not happy and are not in at the advantage side.
Because our cost of production is much. our cost of production, our productivity is lower, cost of production is higher.
So all things add up. GMO is the solution, I guess.
One of the solutions. I don't say
One
the
of the
solution, one of the solutions.
Any other questions from the participant side? Okay, since there is no more questions from the participant side, let us conclude the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, sir, we are very thankful to Mr. Amit Sachdev, sir, as a valuable knowledge partner. Please accept a token of appreciation from JIMA.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you once again. Thank you all for your valuable time and participation. Good evening, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great evening. Thank you very much.